Flash decks have they have so many angles of attack. They can play like this card advantage control game with Sphinx's Revelation. They can play a tempo game with Feeling of Dread and Unsummon. So they can really, speed up or slow down the game depending on, what the game calls for. A lot of flexibility and utility. Justin just with a third land and passes back. Auger in for Mark for a point.
And we're going to see, it looks to be a second Auger here.
Resolves.
And we are going to put them all to the bottom for Mark. Let's see if Mark has a land drop to go along with this.
Looks like there's a Howl Fountain hiding out there.
So obviously in control mirrors, that's something I'm particularly good at, but one thing that I do know is that missing your land drop's not so good.
Yep.
Not so good. As we see, it's another cycle to Azorius Charm here. That's kind of step one in your control mirror. So make sure you hit your first 5 to 6 or 7 land drops so you can get your spells online.
Yeah, making all your land drops very valuable, especially when you're trying to set up Sphinx's Revelation, be able to fight counter spell wars, not get choked on your action. It's a big part of the game.
So we're going to see a Cavern of Souls here for Mark. We're going to see what that's going to name. Likely Angel.
I would be willing to bet it's on Angel.
We're going to see Augur of Bolas coming in here, attacking into a potential Angel from Justin. We'll see if he has that.
And if he's even willing to play it here, because Mark very clearly representing Angel himself. So if Justin flashes in his Angel here and then blocks, and Mark just Angels the blocked Augur, it's not a very productive Angel for Justin.
And we also know that Mark does have that Unsummon in his hand as well. So, you could see an argument for just going, boop, unsummon it. Kind of move along, make him do it again next turn. But we are just going to see that Restoration Angel that we thought he had. See if Augur Bolas can actually find him a card this go around.
No, just
quickly to the bottom.
We saw this with Ben Lundquist too. Just not hitting very often.
Not friendly.
No.
Not helpful.
Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may put them on the bottom of your deck in any order.
So we will see exactly what Justin's going to do here on his turn. Now, of course, Justin can attack for 3. Maybe Mark blocks, then Pillar of Flame takes care of the Angel, but you are just going to see Justin just pass the turn back, and I think he passed it back without playing a land.
Yeah.
Which is the more important thing out of anything that turn.
Mark going to keep up the Lumigrid Warden beatdowns here.
Everyone's favorite 1/3. Coming across. Let's see if Justin has another Restoration Angel here. There's a bevy of cards he can have here. Snapcaster Mage, one of those Azorius Charms. Just a lot of options. As we do see the Restoration Angel get in front of the Augur of Bolas.
But there's nothing that threatening, right? Like if you played another Restoration Angel, Mark has his Unsummon that can mitigate whatever block.
And as we have seen earlier from both Mark and Ben in this tournament, as we see Azorius Charm targeting that Restoration Angel, it's all about using your as much mana as you can every single turn.
Yep.
That's what really gives this blue-white Geist deck its advantage, but also in the same token, the blue-white-red Flash deck as well.
Yeah, you have to be... Alright, there's a rewind here on the Azorius Charm.
Take that, rewind it back. It's going to resolve.
That's a singleton rewind.
Good singleton to have in this deck, too.
Yeah.
I like it quite a bit. It's not something anyone's ever going to play around. It's effective when it works, as you can see right now. Just a nice card to have access to in this deck.
Yeah, if that was a normal counter spell, Mark could have just said, alright, fine, unsummon your Angel, take the damage, now you have to spend your next turn casting it, but rewind was devastating.
We'll see if Justin has any end of turn effects here. Looks like he might see a Thought Scour. That's what we're going to see. Targets himself, turns over an Unsummon, turns over a Clifftop Retreat, and draws himself a new card.
And so we go to untap.
See if he can find. Let's see if Justin can find this 5th land this go around. Seen a couple new cards there. Taking that rewind out of his hand right now also pretty key because he was choked on mana.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be stuck on 4, you might as well get the 4 mana counter spell out of your hand. But no 5th land again for Justin. Mark is going to draw his card. Mark draws an Unsummon for his turn to go along with his other one. You also see a Plains there coming into play. See how Mark chooses to attack this go around, or if he chooses to attack at all.
Yeah, it's hard for him to attack productively, right? The Angel eats the Augur, just blocks the Restoration Angel. Probably just eats the Augur and
So now we're going to see a Snapcaster Mage here on Mark's end step from Justin. Let's see what that's going to choose to target, if that even does resolve.
This list, I believe, plays a couple copies of Dissipate, so he does have some hard counters to fight over that.
Yeah, Mark just does have 2 copies of Dissipate in his deck list. No other counter magic, but always something to be wary of. And we are going to see a Zorius Charm be targeted with a Snapcaster Mage, and he's just going to flash that back. Get himself a new card, really looking desperately for that 5th land.
Yep, although Mark, he's not really capitalizing on Justin's land situation. He's just playing a land saying go, not really able to leverage his temporary advantage here.
And now the troublesome thing here, kind of for Mark, is if Justin does finally start hitting those lands, we know that, he's all spells. We don't know what spells he has right now. We can't get a really good look at his hand, but I mean, if he's not playing lands, it means all he has is spells in his hand. So if he does start, peeling off a couple lands back to back, 7 cards for Mark to worry about. So we do see a Rune Chanter's Pike here from Justin.
It's fairly aggressive since he's aware that Mark has Unsummon.
Now, we may not see an equip and an attack here. I would be surprised if we saw that, honestly.
Right.
But we are going to do a count here. Looks like we're +4 on the Rune Chanter's Pike. And we'll see if Justin's going to make the move to equip or if he's just going to go with those 2 lands up.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that we started here with the turn. Not that he's even necessarily going to be equipping, but it feels like this is potentially playing into Mark's Unsummon here.
Yeah,
maybe there was nothing better he could do. I mean, that's certainly possible, but
give him the opportunity to maybe bounce that Restoration Angel. And that's exactly what Mark is going to do now. The other card you see in Mark's hand, he has that 2nd Unsummon, but he also has a Snapcaster Mage to go along with now another Restoration Angel.
Yeah, and this is like a huge application of pressure now, because he's going to be able to hit for 4, recast his Restoration Angel, find another card with Augur, Unsummon still at the ready for the angel that's presumably coming into play next turn. Oh, we have a Burning Oil? Okay. And this is going to induce the Restoration Angel. Or is that... Oh, that's Searing Spear. Sorry, Searing Spear. But yeah, that again is just going to... And that Augur now finds Feeling of Dread, and now it's going to be very challenging to stabilize through Restoration Angel.
Yep. This is exactly what we saw earlier in Mark's match round 1. This is what we saw in Ben's match round 4. The snowball effect that starts taking place. Now, once this deck does get ahead, because of cards like Unsummon, because of cards like Feeling of Dread, and being able to reuse them, with Snapcaster Mage, you can always keep yourself ahead just long enough to get the game over with. Now, the question here that we have to ask for Justin as we see him coming across with Snapcaster Mage is, does he have the Supreme Verdict?
Sure.
Which he has one in his deck, and he does.
Yep.
So you're going to see Mark bounce his Restoration Angel. Let the other 2 go away. And again, Justin without the land drop. We see Mark does draw a Snapcaster Mage here, so maybe Mark is going to take the opportunity to get this Restoration Angel in now through any counter magic, especially because Justin is a little bit bottlenecked.
Well, I think he wants to just Snapcaster for value a little bit here, because he knows because of Cavern that he can get his Restoration Angel to resolve. So I would assume he wants to just Snapcaster for value a little bit, and then Restoration Angel after that.
Okay. Let's see what we're going to see here from Justin. We're going to see an Augur of Bolas, a card that, of course, cannot find lands.
Or spells, often.
Yeah, depends on who you are. As we do see Thought Scour found for Justin.
Very lucky.
His Augur is friendly. We saw Restoration Angel and Hallowed Fountain get moved to the bottom. Let's see if Justin has any other actions this turn. Obviously, a mitt full of cards. The shields are going to be fully down now, so we're going to see a 2nd Augur of Bolas. The world is Mark's oyster.
So what's Mark's hand here? Feeling of Dread, Restoration Angel, 2 Snapcasters?
Absolutely, that is correct. And we see Mark is going to... It looks like he's responding here to Augur of Bolas, just giving some consideration on what he wants to do. Trigger's going to resolve now. See Thought Scour, Island, and Snapcaster Mage. So 2 Thought Scours in Justin's hand.
Super lucky.
Yep, Augur of Bolas, his friend. I'm very interested to see what Mark's plans are going to be this turn. Maybe it's just going to be as simple as Restoration Angel. Okay, and that's all he's going to do. Draws an Azorius Charm and is coming across. Going to knock Justin down to 8.
Just passes the turn back. Justin's still on 4 lands here.
And if you're Mark, you're feeling pretty good, but you have to be a little bit wary here as well. Because, again, you do know that Justin has all spells.
Yep.
As Justin does finally draw a land, he draws a Desolate Lighthouse.
Well, you have to feel pretty good that, it doesn't really matter if you're drawing cards off those augurs if you don't have the time to deploy them. So they aren't actually really pure sources of card advantage yet, I would argue, because Justin's so bottlenecked on mana. And he sort of can't afford to also just say discard pass, so he has to start committing mana on his own turn, and that plays right into the way that Mark would ideally want the games to play.
So now we see a Pillar of Flame here, Justin, a second Pillar of Flame targeting the Restoration Angel, and we're likely going to see a fight here.
We're going to Snapcaster or Unsummon, I would wager.
Yeah.
And there it is.
I'd like to bounce this back to my hand if you don't mind. And that's going to happen.
And that's the sequence where I really like the Blue-White Geist deck in this matchup, because it's just much easier for it to deploy its cards efficiently and not wait for the situations to arise where they're efficient, which is the problem with, something like Pillar of Flame. Pillar of Flame clearly good in other matchups, very good in fact, but here it's very hard to cobble value out of.
As we do see, Justin did move the Runechanter's Pike over to an Augur of Bolas. Mark burning the first half of his Feeling of Dread to tap those guys down. Snapcaster coming in and knock Justin down to 6.
Yep. Saving Mark both a variety of, a lot of his life rather, and gets in for 2 with the Snapcaster, which is significant because reducing the Justin to 6 means that the Restoration Angel is lethal in 2 turns.
So now Justin on Mark's end step did cast Thought Scour, revealed a Clifftop Retreat and a Moorland Haunt. Did take his draw step as well, so we'll see if he's able to A, hit his 6th land, and B, what can he cobble together knowing that there's almost assuredly going to be a Restoration Angel here coming on the end step.
And I like Mark not landing his Restoration Angel there while Justin was tapped out. A lot of people would have had that instinct, but he does have to be conscious of Snapcaster Mage for Supreme Verdict.
Yep.
So just being a little more conservative with it, I believe, is the right course of action here.
So you do see Justin is coming across with a large Augur of Bolas. We'll get the plus X plus O for you guys, let you know exactly how much he is coming across for with that Pike momentarily, but Mark has accepted the damage, and now we're going to see some end of turn effects. And it's going to start with a Thought Scour. And that Augur Bolas was a 10-3, so that Runechanter's Pike is plus 9. Something you cannot ignore.
Yep, a lot of damage, but Mark again still has Feeling of Dread at the ready. He has, Azorius Charm Unsummoned. He has a lot of ways to defend from that last Pike hit.
So what we saw from Mark there was a Thought Scour, and now you see him casting a Restoration Angel. Of course, if this does resolve, he will attempt to blink Snapcaster Mage, and he'll probably just rebuy that Thought Scour again, get him a little bit deeper in his deck, create that velocity for himself.
So I think Justin is just contemplating a response here. Maybe this is a spot for him to land the Restoration Angel he needs to land.
And as we have seen many times over the course of this weekend and previous weekends I've done coverage with you, Justin is in that spot where he just needs to get the cards out of his hand.
Yeah, he has to. He definitely has. If this game goes on for 7 more turns, Justin's a huge favorite.
Yes.
But he might not get 7 more turns.
So that Thought Scour from Mark, that was flashback with Snapcaster Mage, turns over an Island out of Plains. Draws a mystery card that we just don't know yet, but the shields are down right now for Mark. Justin has the opportunity to potentially resolve a Sphinx of Revelation, can resolve a Restoration Angel, whatever he'd like to do. This is the time that I think he's going to want to take to do it.
Yes. Not going to get a better spot than this.
The only danger, of course, is that by Justin tapping out or, making a move here, Mark gets to, this is all on Justin's end step.
Yes.
So Mark then gets to untap and do what he wants to do. So we'll see if Justin wants to leave shields up or take some of the shields down. Looks like we're going to see some of the shields come down here with that Restoration Angel.
I think we have to do this.
I think I agree with you there. So we do see an Angel bounce Augur Bolas. Now this is something we're a little more used to.
3 lands, that looks about right.
Augur missing for Justin. And Mark gonna untap here. Gonna draw his card. Finds a Sphinx's Revelation. Haven't seen one of those yet in this game from either player.
It's a funny thing too. Like, obviously, it's a very good draw, but you're almost thinking, I don't know if Mark can afford to take a turn off revelating when Justin's the one who probably has an extremely powerful hand.
Mark is the one that's ahead right now. He needs to close this one out.
Yep.
But does he have the tools to do it, or does he need the Sphinx's Revelation to find those tools? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, Revelation is good here, but you almost imagine if you're in Mark's shoes, you'd rather draw even Unsummon or Snapcaster Mage or another Feeling of Dread instead of that Revelation.
And we're going to see a Snapcaster Mage here from Mark on his main phase. Interesting tapping of the mana there. So we're going to see Unsummon take care of that Restoration Angel, and you see Restoration Angel is going to come across here.
And that's another play from this blue-white deck we've been seeing of, wow, unsummon your Restoration Angel when you have a Augur Bolas in play? Like, are you kidding me? But the deck's all about just closing the game out.
Yeah, gotta do it.
Yeah.
Clear the path. I mean, Unsummon acting as a removal spell there. Also, kind of like, you know, acting like a, like Restoration Angel kind of has like an upkeep cost, you know, because to redeploy it, it's not free. It does cost 4 mana, and with Justin only having 6, that's a big deal.
He's going to be able to make a Moorland Haunt token here, we assume. Again, Feeling of Dread still there. I mean, he's just, you know, another chance for this blue-white deck to just sort of squeeze out another win against an opponent with a ton of action from their hand. We've seen this a lot at the Invitational. We've seen a lot today so far as well.
So we do see Justin plays a Hallowed Fountain there. And, you know, he's dying for land drops here. But as we've also mentioned over the course of this weekend, by playing additional colors, you know, again, those Rabduals aren't free. You know, if he was playing maybe blue-white instead, it would be an island or a plains or something like that. But he can't afford to take 2 and go to 1 here, of course.
As you see the new player token here.
Brian Kibler, he doesn't feel like a spirit to me.
No.
He really doesn't.
Human. Yeah,
definitely human. Maybe a dragon token. If they make 1/1 dragon tokens, that would be odd, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a baby, there were ever baby dragon tokens. I guess Rock Egg is the closest.
Yeah, there had to be. Little whelp with fire breathing. But we see Restoration Angel coming in here, and we also see the spirit token Brian Kibler attacking. And we are going to see that Restoration Angel, most likely. And there it is. See the blink effect on the Augur Bolas. See Pillar Flame. 2 lands being put to the bottom. I feel like we're probably going to see that that Feeling of Dread.
Yeah.
See Thought Scour here.
I think he's looking for his 1 unsummon.
And that's it.
It is. Yeah, and Herberholtz 6-1, and it's really weird sometimes watching these flash mirrors, because there's some games where all that matters is outcarding your opponents, and there's some games where the card advantage just does not matter. The game's being played in a more of a tempo, mana efficiency, you know, damage racing sort of game, and it's really weird to watch the games that sort of shift back and forth from those two things, or are so extreme from game to game and how the matches play out. I mean, it is odd.
What's kind of interesting too is, you know, the number of times that we've had this deck on camera, Blue White Geist, like this is the 3rd time. I haven't seen any games won by Geist of St. Traft, you know, just riding it to victory, you know, Feeling of Dread your guy, unsummon your guy, Snapcaster unsummon your guy. I haven't seen that. You know, it's been all about managing resources, kind of grinding the opponent down, you know, jab here, you know, just a little punch there, and then, you know, just getting those last few points of damage through.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we saw Ben Lundquist just kind of lose to an unchecked Geist in the match he won on camera, but the game he lost. But other than that, yeah, it's been, I mean, if Mark had that game, it would have been very good, of course.
Agreed.
It was not necessary for him to take down that game.
You know, I just bring that up because it's ironic that we label the deck Blue White Geist, And, you know, that's basically the namesake of the deck, but, you know, this deck can certainly win if it doesn't draw it.
Yes.
So that's definitely, you know, something that's in its favor. Now, of course, Patrick, I know that you do have Justin's deck list in front of you.
Yes.
And what can he do to save himself in what I think is a, you know, fairly competitive matchup?
Right. He's got 3 copies of Jace Memory Adept, 2 Dispels, another Supreme Verdict, a Negate, and I'm not sure if Oblivion Ring is good here. I think it's actually probably pretty bad.
Doesn't seem very good.
It's another way to actually, you know, get Restoration Angel off the table. And that's the card that does the most heavy lifting from an attacking standpoint of the matchup. So it's possible it's good enough, but I doubt it. I would just want a second Supreme Verdict, the Jaces, some Dispels, and another Negate.
Now, the interesting thing, about Oblivion Ring in this matchup is I agree with you on the surface. It doesn't seem very good. But if you are on the same line of thinking as Justin is when he was building his sideboard, you see there are 3 copies of Jace Memory Adept in his sideboard.
Yeah.
Oblivion Ring, a natural answer to that. And if you look at Mark's sideboard, you'll see 2 copies of Jace Memory Adept. So, you know, there could be when he sees those Oblivion Rings, he goes by those, and he also goes by his Jaces when he's sideboarding, and he says, well, you know, Mark might have Jaces too.
Right.
So maybe I need these Oblivion Rings to kind of hedge against that?
Yeah, maybe. And, you know, the fact that he has Oblivion Ring in his deck instead of Detention Sphere, which he can easily cast, to me implies that maybe it is for similar matchups, because if I plan on Oblivion Ring Restoration Angels, then clearly I want Oblivion Ring instead of Detention Spheres, because I have my own Restoration Angels. So
it'll be interesting if we do see those Oblivion Rings come in. You know, I wouldn't be surprised either way.
Yeah,
is the thing. You know, if we do see one in his opening hand or for one of his draw step, I think the line of thinking is I need this for opposing Jaces.
Right.
So they're really going to have a hard time if one does resolve. Taking a look at Mark's sideboard, outside of those 2 Jace Memory Adepts, you're going to see 2 Dispels, which we saw earlier in the tournament. You're also going to find 3 Purify the Graves. Pretty good at breaking up Snapcaster Mages if you want to take that route. I'd be surprised to see all 3 come in, of course.
Yeah.
3 Supreme Verdicts and 2 Negates, and then 3 Knight of Glories, which those aren't really here for this particular matchup. I think we're going to see 2 Negates join us, along with 2 Dispels and 2 Jaces. And then I wouldn't be surprised to see some number of Purify the Graves. You know, you don't need to bring in all 3, maybe just 1 as a small hedge, kind of blow out a Snapcaster Mage. But again, you know, it's not something that he has to bring in. It's not like the spell where it's 100% coming in.
Yeah, and Mark's looks like Mark's taking a mulligan here. And I think, you know, the more and more I'm watching these games, the more I feel like Azorius Charm is just really anemic in the mirror match. It's just a lot of the guys you don't want to sit on top of the deck. Unlike Unsummon, you know, Unsummon's very good at leveraging your Restoration Angel. We saw it all the time in that game where Mark was just unsummoning Justin's Restoration Angels and attacking. You can't run the same play with Azorius Charm because the defender gets to block first, so there's no damage dealt. And so it wouldn't surprise me if you're supposed to sideboard basically I need to remove all these Azorius Charms, so if I have something that's even fringe, like let's say 1 or 2 copies of Purify the Grave, maybe I'm supposed to have those instead because Azorius Charm just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, Azorius Charm is basically just an overcosted Obsessive Search.
Right.
You know, just a card that just does cycle. And I mean, it is nice to be able to increase your velocity at the beginning of the game to cycle those cards to make sure that you do hit your land drops. But at the end of the day, I think you'd also like, you know, for your cards to actually do something.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
That's the trade-off. So we'll see, you know, if Azorius Charms are still in either player's deck. So I think you do bring up an interesting point there, where, you know, it's a weird card because it has 3 modes, so you think it's doing really a lot, but in reality...
And 1 cycle, so it's like, how bad could it be, right?
Yeah, in reality, you know, how bad could it be, as you said, but, you know, you could probably find a better card than that.
Yeah. It's been surprising. I associate Azorius Charm with a large part of the reason this deck's good, but in the mirror match, it just doesn't really do anything.
So we are going to see a Hallowed Fountain untapped here for Mark and knock himself down to 18, representing a Thought Scour on Justin's end step.
Yep.
And you do see a Jace Memory Adept in Mark's hand. You see that Sulphur Falls coming to play for Justin tapped. Thought Scour going to fire off here. We're going to see a Dissipate and Augur of Bolas. I don't know what Mark drew for his turn, but we do see a Glacial Fortress there, so hitting his land drops so far.
Yep, and that's that's the most important thing to start the game.
Absolutely. And what you see here, I don't think Justin hit his. Okay, he's thinking things through. All right, we're going to see an Augur of Bolas.
I think he's got a Cliff Chop Retreat in his hand at the minimum. Justin contemplating, which means one of the rare augurs that's hit multiple spells.
Yeah, the other spell that it did hit is Azorius Charm, but Thought Scour is what Justin's going to take, and then you do see that Clifftop Retreat. You're going to see a think twice here from Mark. You do see again with Justin's deck that mana base, that slow mana base.
Yep.
With those, those lands that do come into play tapped, unless you do have, a certain requirement met.
And Mark's going to capitalize on this with Geist of St. Traft.
Absolutely. So Geist of St. Traft is going to join the fray here. You see Justin's going to play that Herberholtz. So both players do have a copy of that in play right now. And now this is phase one of this game. Phase one involves hitting your land drops, and then if there's a Geist, you have to deal with the Geist. Yep. So that's where we're at right now for Justin. And now it's Mark's job to keep that Geist coming on through. So we do see a Augur of Bolas. Rewind would not be bad here.
No.
We don't see Rewind, but what we do see is Dispel here from Mark off of the Augur.
So Justin really needs Restoration Angel here, I would wager.
It'll be a big one right now.
Actually, it wouldn't surprise me if Mark was just unwilling to attack into this Augur unless he has an unsummon or some way to back it up.
Mark going to put Holophon into play tapped and just does kick the turn back to Justin, not willing to attack into what could be a potential Restoration Angel. We are just going to see a Thought Scour here from Justin.
Does not find a creature to go along with his Moorland Haunt.
2 Steam Vents by the wayside there. We'll see if Justin, milling those 2 lands. We're going to see another Thought Scour here, targeting himself. Supreme Verdict, Glacial Fortress down. So he has milled 3 lands. So, this is a deck that does play 24 lands. Maybe he's milled too many. We'll see if he's able to hit his 5th land drop. Land drops moving forward.
And unfortunately for him, no creatures to go along with his Moorland Haunt.
Yeah. We are going to see he's tapping his lands. I'm going to re-tap him here. Cycle Azorius Charm.
Yep.
Looks like he's desperate for a 5th land again, just like the first game.
And now,
that's it.
Now Herberholtz can really start taking advantage. I mean, he can't go too crazy here because he has to worry about Supreme Verdict, but he can definitely start pushing.
You see Mark does attack with the Geist of St. Traft and the Augur Bolas, triggers that. So we will have an Angel joining us, but the scary part here right now is that if Justin doesn't have a negate in his hand and he only plays 1 in his sideboard, we're gonna and we know that there's no Syncopate looming because there's none in his deck list.
I suspect. Oh, and I was gonna say I'm willing to suspect that Mark wasn't planning on playing Jace this turn because otherwise he probably would have held back with Augur Bolas to bounce off the opposing Augur.
Okay.
Just set up his defenses. Now with Justin making this move and just trying to trade with Geist, I wouldn't be surprised if Mark's not going to try to stick it this turn, but he did have a window there where he could have.
You're going to see Snapcaster. What you see there is Snapcaster Mage on Dissipate.
Right, which Mark had milled over earlier off of one of his Thought Scours.
And you see that just so he can keep pushing his advantage with Geist of St. Traft, which I think is perfectly reasonable at this point.
For sure. Especially, again, with Justin missing land drops and Mark getting into a position shortly where he's going to be able to play Jace with Dispel back up.
So basically, he can take 2 angles of attack and make Justin have to use, his cards to be able to deal with both angles, because right now he's coming from the aggressive angle. Right. But now, starting next turn, he can start coming from the Jace attacking your library angle, and it's really, really difficult when you're bottlenecked on mana to stop 1 angle of attack, let alone 2.
Yeah, I mean, one plan requires Justin to attack, and the other requires him to block.
Yeah.
And he can't do both.
Yeah, that's correct.
So
we do see Negate along with Dispel, Jace Memory Depth, and lands in Mark's hand. Mark, ever so careful, crafting what he wants to do this turn.
I mean, Mark still is, he still doesn't have a great answer to Restoration Angel. And that's the only thing that's causing pause here.
Yeah.
If Justin has it, it's pretty obnoxious.
You could lead off this turn with just Jace Memory Depth and try to get that counter war over with.
Sure. Yeah. Although I suspect that, Justin would have probably tried to main phase his Angel there if he had it.
That's true, with the shields down. Yeah, that does make sense. There is the Angel.
So, good read by Mark there.
Mark is going to flashback, think twice, draw a card. So it was a card that he drew. He drew Thought Scour. So your Restoration Angel blink there. We see it hit a Dissipate off of the Augur Bola. So now Justin again going to untap. Justin desperately looking for land drops. Does find one with the Plains for the draw step.
Even his like colored mana situation is not awesome, even with his 5 lands in play. Because
Yeah,
the basic plane
oddly
in the
enough.
Moreland Haunt, yeah.
Yeah.
Even cycling Azorius Charm, you know, that one turn meant there was a lot of other things he couldn't do because he had a Moreland Haunt in play.
As now you do see Mark using the Moreland Haunt, putting the Brian Kibler Spirit token into play. Mark does draw an island for his turn. Yeah, it's kind of odd that he does have 5 lands in play, but you know, cycling an Azorius Charm right now, for example, for Justin, would leave his shields down for double blue for the Dissipate.
Right.
So kind of strange, actually, that that's what actually is happening. Mark gonna
5 lands in play, 3 of them are dual lands, and kind of subtly having colored mana issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're going to see Sphinx's Revelation here for 2. Let's see if Mark finds this worthy of fighting over.
Please come to the side. 2-head giant team Bullington Flag. Please come to the side.
It's enough for Mark.
And Mark is going to opt to dispel that. Now, you know, there's an interesting area there where you can choose dispel or negate there, but I think Mark has his own Jace Memory Adept in his hand. He's like, I'd rather, you know, if Justin does slam down his own Jace, negate that because I can't dispel it.
Yeah.
We are going to see a Thought Scour here.
It's a little different game 1, but games 2 and 3 had to be very conscious of Planeswalkers in the mirror match because that's the path that a lot of these decks go in the post-board games.
So we see Unsummon and Moreland Haunt turned over. Mark does draw a mystery card. But no creature for his Moreland Haunt that is in play. We see another Dispel in Mark's hand now. You always are just wondering if he's ever going to pull the trigger on this Jace Memory Deck. He's done a nice job of gumming up the ground.
Yeah.
To make it so the Jace is pretty good. And he does have that flying blocker in the Spirit token. But when does one pull the trigger on the Jace Memory Adept?
Yeah, I guess at this point he's feeling with negate and dispel that he has sufficient backup.
It looks like he's going to make his move
All
here.
right, here we go.
Probably, if not, one of the most important cards in the mirror post sideboard.
And I don't think the question is whether or not this thing is going to resolve, because I think it almost certainly is. I think the bigger question is whether or not Mark is going to be able to protect this thing over the course of the next few turns.
Yeah. We see a rewind here. Dispel from Mark.
That's a fine Dispel target.
I'm inclined to agree. And now we are going to have a library count for Mark. See how many activations this Jace is going to take to put this away.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm 1, 2, 3, 4.
We're kind of
I think it's 4.
4
I think we're at
activations.
4. You know, once you factor in Justin's draw steps.
Yep. So now, you know, we factor in that it's 4. Question, of course, now is does Mark want to draw a card? And,
Yep.
and it looks like he is going to, yeah.
Yeah, I actually like this approach a little bit better because, you know, the game's probably going to go on for quite a while here. Let's see.
Just going to make sure that we're resolving this Jace correctly. He's going to draw a card and target himself with the Jace to mill a card instead of Justin. And now he's just going to pass the turn back.
Yeah, I think Mark's saying here, I don't think I can protect this Jace for 4 turns to mill him out with this guy having a full grip of cards and a Restoration Angel to attack with. It's just not giving his hand enough respect.
And now there's an Oblivion Ring, a card that we were wondering if Justin was going to bring in post-board and just bring him in just to deal with Jace. We see a negate, and we see a dispel for the negate. So Jace is going to go bye-bye right now.
Yep.
So an expensive way to draw a card from Mark. But what the other thing that it does do is that it does tap Justin very low.
And there's a Pike. Oh boy.
And now a Rune Chanter's Pike looking to turn things around in a big way.
Yeah, that was the perfect draw for, you know, Mark to capitalize with. Because now even if Justin fires back with Supreme Verdict, now the Moreland Haunt, now we're on Moreland Haunt plus Rune Chanter's Pike. That was basically the perfect draw for Mark there.
So now Mark is going to come across here with the first Striking Geist. It is big. We'll have confirmation on just how big, but we do know a 4/4 Angel is coming across as well. Yeah, huge draw.
Yeah.
Huge draw. So now Justin has to consider, do I want to chump block with Herberholtz? Can I afford to take this hit? You know, I'm at 15, and I got a 4-4 coming my way as well.
Yeah. And does Supreme Verdict even do anything next turn?
Yeah, that's the biggest issue.
All right, that block definitely represents that we're going to cast Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, that's how
just chump block the 4-4.
That's what it feels like to me too. And if that's the case, that means this is where you see Moreland Haunt start to dominate a game.
Yes.
This is exactly it.
Moreland Haunt plus equipment. I feel like we've seen this before.
My memory's kind of foggy. I am 26 going on 27. I'm getting a little old.
Yeah. I still have my wits about me, and I feel like I've seen this interaction come up before.
A time or two.
Well, I'm gonna venture a guess here that we can't chump block the 4-4 with our Restoration Angel and then not Supreme Verdict. So.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Okay. And there is a Supreme Verdict. And for you guys at home, Runechanter Spike is +7 right now. But we are going to see some Spirit Tokens come into play here.
And trying to withstand this storm is just, it is real rough.
It's not a lot of fun. It is not a lot of fun to have to deal with this. So we see Runechanter Spike get equipped here. Looks like it's going to be an attack for 8, knocking Justin down to 7 if our math is correct. And now you're going to see another Geist of St. Shraft here from Mark. No reason to move that equipment right now so he can leave Moreland Haunt up. And he just kicks it right back to Justin, basically threatening lethal again.
Yeah, he basically needs Supreme Verdict plus Oblivion Ring to get out of this spot, because he's asking a lot.
Troublesome thing from Justin, it's just both games he's really just been bottlenecked on mana.
Yeah.
You know, it's just really had, you know, he's had the spells. Of course, when you're not hitting your land drops, you're drawing spells. He's had the spells, he just has to be able to get them out in time.
Right, I mean, but this is also the reason that you were playing cards like Think Twice instead of cards like, Searing Spear. You just always get to be moving your deck along.
As we do see an Oblivion Ring here from Justin. Likely going to be trying to take out that Runechanter's Pike. Let's see, Mark, giving this a thought. Not sure what the last card is in Mark's hand.
I believe it's blue.
It's going to take care of that. Steam Vents. We're going to see Moreland Haunt make another guy on the end step. This time Patrick Chapin coming to town. The whole suite.
Yep.
A Star City Games creature tokens. Mark's going to draw his card. You see Restoration Angel in his hand. You see him coming across. Trigger that. We're looking at lethal. Looking at a Moreland Haunt token. We're looking at Snapcaster Mage on summon. And we are looking at game, my friends. Mark Herberholtz 2-0 over Justin Nguyen. Blue-White Geist defeating Blue-White-Red Flash. And it looks like Mark Herberholtz making the top 8 of the tournament.
Wow.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's been too long, my